Right, ready to rock and roll. How we doing, folks? My name's Greg. I'm with The Third Element, and this is one of our weekly podcasts. I'm joined today with one of my teammates, actually, Trent Vandenhouten, and what we're going to talk to you a little bit about is our interest and our views of The Third Element, why we're passionate about it, and what we believe that it can do for you. So, I'll start with Trent. Why don't you give our audience a little bit of background, a little bit about your story?
Okay. So I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and then I went to school at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And my whole life, I always thought I was going to be a college basketball coach. That's kind of where it all started. My dad won a state championship when I was a young kid, and ever since then, all my friends always told me, "Hey, you might not be the best player, but you're one hell of a coach." And they always said to me, "I think you're going to be a coach," and that's the only thing I ever thought I was going to be too. So I got to Milwaukee and I became a head manager for the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee's men's basketball team. Did that for 3 years and got to be with 3 different coaches in 3 years. Some really good, some not so good. And I had LaVall Jordan, who was at Michigan before that and won a national championship. And he kind of taught me what culture means and how important it actually is and how it can change a team, because we were a team that was 8-23 going in on an 8-game losing streak, going into our conference tournament, and we almost won the whole thing and we would have had the worst record ever going into a national or going into the big dance. So, but yeah, that's a little bit about me, and just there's a lot more that goes into it as why I love 3E, but we'll get into that as well.
So I hear a lot of passion and interest with respect to athletics, particularly from a coaching perspective. And I can already tell just from your story some of the undertones of the value of culture, championship culture in a team, and what kind of an impact that has on an individual athlete as well as the team as a whole. Tell us a little bit about what's the draw for Third Element? Why are you working here?
So I actually, when I was in high school, I had a very bad coach, and I saw kind of how it affected me personally. Every day I hated going to practice. I hated even going to school at times. And I remember one time he said to me, "Well, how come you're always so happy, but then when you come here, you're just down in the dumps. You don't smile ever. You're like the happiest kid I know." And I just looked at him and I said, "I don't know, maybe you should look at yourself."
Look in the mirror.
Yeah. So, but like I said, my dad was a coach my whole life. And so I was a little more mentally tough than most kids, I would say. And I might have been the scapegoat on that team, but I saw my friends get affected by it a lot more. We had 8 guys quit in 1 year.
Wow.
My junior and senior year. We had one of the worst records in the conference, even though arguably we were the best team in the conference. And I just saw how it affected those kids and how it affected them going into their future. And a lot of them, personally myself too, I was always the type of kid that thought I can do whatever I want. And whatever I think I can do it. And after getting in these situations with our coach, made me put a damper on my life and kind of lost sight on what I thought was important. And I know my friends, same way, they kind of got pushed back and maybe didn't go do the things they wanted to do or had the success that they thought they could have had. And so for me, the Third Element is something that can really change us. I think for the coach's perspective, it teaches them how to build a culture and how to actually reach the kids. We do a really good job of pointing out things that maybe are lacking in a team or that are concerning, and then it tells the coach how to actually reach them in the right way and communicate with them the right way. But from the kids' perspective, I would say it really establishes what maybe you want to be. And people always say, or make you look at like Michael Jordan or something like that. And these people are very different than most. They had a lot of these skills and leadership abilities already from a young age. And here we do a great job of introducing these topics and showing them techniques on how to hone those skills as well. But going back to the coach as well, I think a really good thing it does too is kids are not as mentally tough as what they used to be. Millennials especially, I know myself, I have a tendency of wanting instant gratification as most kids do. And like Greg, we had talked about earlier how you had said the difference, how like the routes. You want to talk
Yeah,
about
in my
that?
generation, the options available to me were much more limited than a young person today. A young person today has so much access to information. Prior to the internet, prior to cell phones, we had 3 channels on our television set, and we used to spend a lot of time outside in our bikes. So whatever was in our neighborhood, those were the options that were available to us, and that was it. Today, a young person has so many more options available in terms of what occupies their time and their attention and their passion. And so I think to Trent's point, the idea is that today we have to present information in a different way to folks in order to make it fun and enjoyable and interesting to them. Otherwise, they're not likely to pursue it.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, we teach those skills on how to make it fun so that these kids actually want to keep going instead of, oh, I'm losing, I'm not as good as what I should be. All right, I'm going to quit and just do something else. So.
It's a pull versus a push. In my day, a lot of information was pushed at us, and we had no choice. We had to consume it, and we were like the Marines. We had to follow all the rules and all the structure. And what I'm hearing from you and in your life is that a lot of the interest in that structure is dissipated. Now it's a matter of you pursuing what motivates you, what turns you on. And so now it's a pull strategy. We have to create an environment that these kids want to follow.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a great point. Like why esports is probably getting so big is nowadays kids can look up whatever they need to find out. They can get any information they want because there is so much out there, and you can learn so much. Whereas when it comes to real sports nowadays, yeah, they can find out all these ways to get better, but at the end of the day, is someone making them want to show up every day? Is someone making them is someone helping them every day saying, you are doing well, or hey, I'm not going to tear you down each day. I'm going to help you build yourself up. Yeah, encouragement. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, and I think it's a great reason a great thing that the Third Element does is because it helps the coaches especially reach these kids because times are changing. So
what I'm hearing, Trent, if I recap a little bit, especially when we start talking about the Third Element platform and the timing of its relevance in a marketplace, you talk a lot about creating a platform that makes it easy, enjoyable, fun, and interesting for young athletes, both high school and college level, to follow. And you touched also on the importance of coaching and how a good coach and a bad coach has a dramatic impact on an athlete's ability to pursue and sustain that athletic talent. I see it from the fact that the Third Element also produces a platform where it allows coaches to understand how to teach culture, how to build culture without having to feel like they need to be a sports psychologist or invest a tremendous amount of time in figuring it out, because the Third Element already has PhDs that built that curriculum and they built that process. So really all a coach has to do is follow the tools that the platform provides for him or her. And if you do that, you're winning on both sides of the equation, right? You're catering to the young athlete. You're giving them an opportunity to pull along and to learn and grow at their own pace. And at the same token, you're providing coaches with a structure, a framework, and some curriculum that's scientifically produced so that they can lead and build culture in their team without having to feel like they need a PhD to do it.
And the best thing too with that is it's not like we're telling you how you need to coach every single bit of the way. We're just giving you little bits of information, like you said, a framework that they can customize to make what's right for their team.
So give us an example. So, your passion is to be a coach. If you were a coach and you were using the Third Element, give us an example of something that the platform would do for you as a coach.
Well, for me as a coach, what it would do is it would just make sure I'm keeping up to date with all the stuff I want to do to build culture and how to do it effectively the right way, and how to, like, in the first stage of the preseason, defining your culture, your why and your what. And our saying is define it, promote it, live it, and teach it. And so in the first part of it, it would just help me on ways to help get the conversation started with my team. So it's actually something we built instead of something that me as the coach is saying, all right, this is what our culture is going to be. As where an effective culture, the whole team creates it because they feel like I'm part of the equation and I had a say in what we're going to do. So
I have a relative that's a baseball coach, and he's using the third element, and he kind of deployed the system in mid-baseball season. But one of the first things he said to me is, I had a couple of players that were in conflict with one another. Mm-hmm. And one of the things the third element helped him do is it created a framework as to how to resolve conflict on a team. And he used, he used the worksheets and he used the process, and he said it was awesome. Yeah. He said not only did it mitigate the conflict between the two athletes, but it was a good model for the team culture as to how we're going to work through disagreements in the future.
Exactly.
What would you say, where do you think this thing's going to go from your perspective, Trent? Where do you see the third element?
Well, from what I have always wanted to do is I'm very passionate. When I went to UWM, I took a class that was called Multicultural Diversity, and it kind of taught about why the city, or how the city was built up, because Milwaukee's the most segregated city in America. And then through that, I got involved with the high schools, and I really am passionate about just helping people. I've always felt like my greater purpose in life was just to help make people's lives better. And this is something I wanted to do when I got into coaching. When I would get to college basketball, I wanted to use my platform. But I would say the biggest thing for my vision with this is I want to get it into the schools, like the lower income areas where the kids that need it the most are able to get it. And the kids that maybe don't have a leader at home or someone that's really a good influence on them, I think this is something that can help change kids' perspectives. Because I would go into the schools and I would talk about, how many of you want change? And they'd all raise their hand right away. And then I'd say, all right, how many of you think change can happen? And they'd all go, no, that'll never happen, and all this, throw a big fit about it. And I would say, well, why not? And then they'd give me all these reasons, and I'd look at them and say, well, all you guys just raised your hands. I mean, I'm sure everyone else in your neighborhood wants change too. How come this can't happen? And I think it will help change kids' perspectives on, I can't do this. Because so many kids, no matter what income level or what school they're at, there's so many kids that don't believe, I can do this. I can't reach the thing I want to reach, which is not true at all, especially nowadays with what's all out there. Like I said, you can learn anything on YouTube today. And I think it will just help kids and coaches see that there's more, and I'm able to reach more. And I know myself better, because we talk a lot about growth mindset here and setting standards and setting goals. And I think it will help just kids in general believe that they can do things instead of not just have the instant gratification and, oh, I'm not getting it right away. All right, I'm going to quit, instead of trying to go after it. So
I think all of us, regardless of our age, we have a tendency to make mountains out of molehills, to use an old pun. But what happens to us is the complexity of how we move our lives forward becomes so big and ominous that we simply don't do anything because we don't know what to do next. And the beautiful part about it is, with your passion and your interest and your desire to get into the grassroots level at a school, the framework, the third element framework exists. So now you're actually showing them it's an easy 1, 2, 3 step to get to make progress, to be able to move their lives forward. They don't have to any longer stand and stare at a mountain, because there is a path through it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, as soon as you get some little bit of momentum, it keeps building every single day. So
in kind of to recap, Trent, can you just, in closing here, you know more about the Third Element service and app and all the pieces that go with it than probably most of our viewing audience does. We hope to change that, folks. We'd like to have you as one of our clients, but kind of share with us what you think is one of the most valuable features or benefits of the Third Element as a whole.
I would say the thing that's most beneficial to our program is the way it's all synchronized. The kids and the coaches, they're all getting the same information. The coaches get to see what the kids are doing and how much progress they're having, and can urge them to get more progress. But then those tasks those skills that they're learning in the app correlate to what the coach is actually talking about each week. So each lesson that they're learning ties together with a huddle sheet that we talk about. The way it's synchronized, and we call it 360 reinforcement. Just we keep hitting them back and forth as much as we can so that these things stick in their mind and they become actual skills instead of something that lasts for that season. It's something that lasts a lifetime. And it's something that I wish I personally would have had. And among the former athletes I talked to, they all say, I wish I would have had that, because it sets you up to be ready for life. Because I know when I got to school, oh my God, it was a slap in the face. I was like, I'm an adult now. My mom and dad did everything for me. So I think it just helps you, especially with college and personal life in general, just how much different it is from that transition from high school to college or to the work life and the real life in general. And these things actually stick. So I think that's the best part.
So, and what I'm hearing you say is the communication is improved between an athlete and a coach. Of course, there's some generational differences, and in most cases, there's some generational differences between the two. And if the coach uses the worksheets and the tools and starts to repeat some of the terminology and the concepts that are available to them in the toolkit, it mirrors what a lot of the athletes are listening to and learning about on the app, and it gives both of those generations an opportunity to have some common views and some common language.
And I would say too, building off that as well, is we have set what a great culture looks like and exactly how to implement it effectively and how to drive it throughout the season and ongoing. And we've taken what we learned from other coaches as well as our PhDs, and we're always learning, and we're switching things up to make sure it's up to date. And it does, like the coaches that we have used in the past, like and who I've been a part of with, like Laval Jordan at Butler, it goes exactly with how our culture was set up. When everything was structured and everything had a task in each week, and everything we did, our culture and our mission was put into every drill, every meeting we met, every single thing we did. And I just think the Third Element does a great job of just reintroducing that and keeping it fresh and keeping it up to date and doing a great job of just driving the culture that you want it to be.
And it struck me when the word fresh struck me as well, Trent, in that one of the things you may not know, folks, is that we at Third Element, we get hundreds and hundreds of we follow hundreds and hundreds of different channels for information on a weekly basis. We actually repost a lot of that and share a lot of that information along with some of our own content. So you can find us on social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn. We have a newsletter that we'd love to see you sign up for. You can access that on our website, which is thethiRdelement.com. That's THE 3 RDelement.com. Please visit our website. You can find out more about our program there, and you can sign up for our newsletter so you can make sure that we'll keep you up to date on trends, on instant news, as well as changes and modifications and improvements to our platform. So we appreciate your time today. Trent, anything that you want to share before we wrap up?
No, just thank you for listening, and thanks for having me, Greg. Really appreciate it.
You bet. My pleasure, and I appreciate your time. So we'll talk to you next week, folks. Okay.